Chapter 4404. Lu Ming smashed Yelu Shirkai's face with one slap, forcing him to swallow back the words "admit defeat." Then he pressed down with his hand, and a powerful force erupted, enveloping Yelu Shirkai's entire body. With a bang, Yelu Shirkai knelt down in front of Lu Ming. An eye for an eye. Previously, the people of the heavenly human tribe treated the people of Heaven Destroyer in this way. Now, Lu Ming used the same method to return the favor, letting the heavenly human tribe feel the feeling of being humiliated in public. The people of the heavenly human tribe were in an uproar. They were different from the people of Heaven Destroyer. The heavenly human tribe was high and mighty. They had ruled the primitive universe for countless years. For so many years, they looked down on the universe and regarded other creatures in the universe as ants. Any member of the heavenly human tribe would be praised high and mighty as long as they went out. They were rarely humiliated. At this time, a top genius of the heavenly human tribe was kneeling in front of Lu Ming. It had always been other creatures kneeling to them. When did they kneel to other creatures? Therefore, when such a thing happened, their tolerance was very low. Their mentality was completely broken. Damn bastard, what are you doing? You're committing a crime, a heinous crime. No one can save you. You're finished, you're completely finished. Many people of the heavenly human tribe roared. Their eyes were wide open, and they were furious. Seeing the appearance of the heavenly human tribe, the people of the other races suddenly felt an inexplicable sense of pleasure in their hearts. They also took pleasure in their misfortune. However, Lu Ming responded to them with an even more violent action. Bang! Under the pressure of the forbidden power, Yelu Shirkai's entire body fell to the ground. His bones cracked and he vomited a large mouthful of blood. He looked like he was prostrating himself in front of Lu Ming. Then, Lu Ming stepped down and stomped on Yelu Shirkai's face. The heavenly human tribe roared again and again. Their anger soared to the sky as if they were about to be burned by anger. This time, even the divine masters and heavenly venerables outside couldn't bear it anymore. Lu Ming, do you know the consequences of humiliating my heavenly human tribe? An old celestial venerable said, the threat in his voice obvious. However, would Lu Ming be afraid? Lu Ming gave him a sidelong glance and said disdainfully, "Old man, do you think I'm scared? You're threatening me as if you'll let me off if I don't do this?" After being mocked by Lu Ming, even the Empyrean, who had lived for countless years, narrowed his eyes and flashed with cold, killing intent. If it weren't for the fact that they couldn't make a move here, he wouldn't have been able to resist the urge to kill Lu Ming. A mere lowly ant actually dared to mock him, an exalted Empyrean? How audacious! However, he didn't say anything in the end. Firstly, he couldn't bring himself to quarrel with a junior. The second reason was that he really didn't know what to say, because what Lu Ming said was correct. If Lu Ming didn't do this, would the celestial race let him go? It was clearly impossible. Therefore, what did Lu Ming have to fear? The celestial race thinks you're high and mighty, but let me tell you, in front of me you're just dogs. Do you understand? You have to lie down obediently. Those behind, listen up. If you meet me later in the competition, lie down obediently like a dog. Otherwise, you'll all end up like this. Lu Ming's voice spread in all directions. Boom, 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 anger, anger on top of anger. Almost all of the celestial race erupted with powerful auras. Even the heavenly venerables couldn't control themselves and erupted with terrifying auras. I'm so angry. Son of a bitch, you're courting death, courting death, courting death. I'm going to tear him apart. The young celestial race or the strong celestial race roared crazily and flew into a rage. They couldn't wait to pounce on Lu Ming and skin him alive. Terrifying killing intent gathered and whistled in the air, but Lu Ming didn't care at all. He and the celestial race had long been in an irreconcilable situation. Therefore, he felt very comfortable to be able to anger these arrogant celestial race. He felt extremely refreshed upon seeing the enraged heavenly human tribe powerful beings. Not only him, but the people on the Heaven Destroyer's side felt even more refreshed. The humiliation they had suffered before was swept away. It was as if all the pores on their bodies had opened. The way they looked at Lu Ming had changed. In their eyes, Lu Ming had become extraordinarily cute. Bang! At this time, Lu Ming attacked again. He kicked out and kicked Yelu Shirkai's head. With a bang, Yelu Shirkai's head exploded and he died on the spot. Of course, he wouldn't really die here. Yelu Shirkai's body turned into rays of light and flew back to the lotus, then reformed. Yelu Shirkai was resurrected. However, his aura was a bit weak, and his eyes were full of fear when he looked at Lu Ming. He had developed a fear of Lu Ming and had developed an inner demon. This guy has a 12-star battle prowess. Some people among the celestial race had slowly calmed down, such as Yi Chu Tianji. At this moment, when Yi Chu Tianji looked at Lu Ming, his killing intent was incomparably cold. In the universe, there were too many people who had a 12-star battle prowess and could be compared to him. Before entering the highest immortal city, he thought that in the universe, only Yiling Hongye could be his opponent. He felt that there were too many people. What he wanted was to be invincible in the universe and suppress an era. Behind him, another Xian Yanqing ran out. He actually also had a 12-star battle prowess and was not weaker than him. This made him extremely furious. But now, Lu Ming's battle prowess was also 12 stars. Although Lu Ming's cultivation was only at the 8th layer of the Great Supreme God realm, it was easy to break through. It wouldn't be difficult to break through given some time. At that time, Lu Ming would be in existence not weaker than him. There were too many, and he couldn't stand it. He had to get rid of some of them. He was already planning how to get rid of Lu Ming after leaving the highest immortal city. It would be best if he could get rid of Xian Yanqing as well. Under the cold and murderous gazes, Lu Ming returned to the lotus. The roots of the lotus under his feet quickly grew taller and became 40 feet tall. After Lu Ming, the competition continued. There were a total of 36,000 people, which meant that there would be 18,000 battles. In the blink of an eye, another half a month had passed. During this period, Lu Ming saw Dark Knight Rose, Di Jinyi, Yin Jioling and the others easily defeating their opponents without any pressure. This time, the competition took a whole month before it finally ended. In this way, there was an obvious change in the height of the lotus roots. Among them, 18,000 people's lotus roots had become 40 feet tall, and the other 18,000 people's lotus roots had become 20 feet tall. Lu Ming and the others stood on the 40 feet tall lotus and looked down at the 20 feet tall lotuses. Those on the 20 feet tall lotuses had to look up at them, which stimulated many people's battle intent. Chapter 4405. I still have a chance. I will definitely fight my way up. A temporary failure is nothing. Sooner or later, I will stand at the top and look down on others. Many people on the 2 feet tall lotus swore in their hearts. Everyone wanted to stand at the top and look down on others. The lotus seemed to be able to distinguish between the nobles and the lowly ones. Those standing on the 4 feet tall lotus dared not be careless. They secretly warned themselves that they had to continue winning because once they lost, others would appear above them and look down on them. They would have to look up to others. Just the simple rise and fall of the lotus had completely ignited the battle intent in everyone's hearts. Soon, the second round of the competition began. 2 4-feet-long lotus flowers flew toward the fighting ring. The first was the 4-feet-tall area. Generally speaking, it was a 4-feet-tall lotus flower against a 4-feet-tall lotus flower. Only under special circumstances would there be a battle between lotus flowers of different heights. Hey, it's Bubbles. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. He did not expect that it would be Bubbles' turn to fight in the first round of the second round. Bubbles' opponent was also a young prodigy of the heavenly human tribe. It's a space-time spirit mouse. She looks pretty good. The prodigy of the heavenly human tribe was very arrogant. He stood with his hands behind his back and looked at Bubbles indifferently. After a few words, he said, "Admit defeat. I don't want to bully a woman, especially a beautiful one." He had the right to be confident because he was considered a top prodigy of the heavenly human tribe with a 10-star combat power. He was just below the 9 heavenly daughters. Although the space-time spirit mouse could control time and space and was very talented, he still did not take it seriously. "You want me to admit defeat?" Bubbles was surprised. "That's right. Hurry up and admit defeat before you embarrass yourself," the prodigy of the heavenly human tribe said. If his opponent was not a woman and was a space-time spirit mouse, she could be considered as a member of the Heavenly Palace. That was why he gave her a chance. If she was a member of the Heaven Destroyer, he would have already attacked. He would not give her the slightest chance. Most of the Heavenly Human Tribe members at the scene were also relaxed and calm. They thought that they would definitely win this competition. However, a few of the Heavenly Human Tribe members looked a little gloomy. For example, Yi Chu Tianji, Yi Chu Qianyue, and the others. They had fought with Bubble before and had seen her in action. They knew her strength very well. That was a genuine 11-star battle prowess. Moreover, it was the power of time and space, which was extremely difficult to deal with. On the battle stage, the Heavenly Human Race's prodigy actually asked Bubble to admit defeat. Wasn't this a joke? Wasn't this asking for humiliation? Yi Hanlin, admit defeat. Yi Chu Qianyue spoke. What? The sky pride of the Heavenly Human Tribe on the fighting ring was called Yi Hanlin. When he heard Yi Qianyue's words, he couldn't help but feel a little confused. Not only him, but the other members of the Heavenly Human Tribe were also dumbfounded. Yi Qianyue actually asked Yi Hanlin to admit defeat? What was going on? Is there something wrong with Chu Qianyue's head? Seeing Yi Hanlin standing there in a daze, Yi Chu Qianyue was secretly anxious. He knew that Bubbles was on Lu Ming's side. Once they made a move, Yi Hanlin might be humiliated again. Rather than being humiliated, it was better to just admit defeat. What are you standing there for? I told you to admit defeat. Hurry up and admit defeat. Yi Qianyue said. Admit defeat? That's impossible. Yi Hanlin shook his head and refused. Your Majesty, although you're an emperor, you can't ask me to admit defeat so easily. Don't worry. It's just a space-time spirit mouse. It's just a piece of cake. You're no match for her. Yi Qianyue's face darkened. What? This time, the crowd was even more shocked. What did Yi Qianyue say? Yi Hanlin was no match for Bubble? Yi Hanlin had a 10-star battle prowess. Could it be that Bubble also had a 10-star battle prowess? Or even stronger? Impossible. As far as they knew, among the emperor gods of the space-time spirit mouse, none had a 10-star battle prowess. The strongest one only had a 9-star battle prowess. How could Yi Hanlin be no match for Bubble? Many people's first reaction was to not believe it. Yi Hanlin himself didn't believe it. Your Majesty, please believe in my strength. I'm confident in my own strength. I'll definitely win this match. As soon as he finished speaking, Yi Hanlin charged toward Bubble and launched an attack, not giving Yi Qianyue a chance to speak. This idiot! Yi Qianyue shouted angrily. At this time, Bubble also made her move. Her small hands moved gently, and ripples spread out in the void. They were like pieces of mirrors that pressed down on Yi Hanlin. Yi Hanlin's speed suddenly slowed down. His body seemed to have sunk into a quagmire and was met with great resistance. Heavenly Annihilation Energy, break! Yi Hanlin shouted. His Heavenly Annihilation Energy burst out and condensed into a battle saber. He slashed in all directions, trying to break through the space-time force. However, Bubble's current battle prowess had reached 12 stars. Her glabella shone as she activated the 2 origin ancient characters and pushed the space-time force to the extreme. Although Yi Hanlin's Heavenly Annihilation Energy was powerful, it couldn't break through the space-time force. The space that he could move in was constantly being compressed. The powerful space-time force from all directions continued to press down on Yi Hanlin. Arg! Damn it! How is this possible? Yi Hanlin shouted as he attacked madly. He was extremely shocked. He didn't expect Bubble to be so terrifying. Her space-time force was so powerful that even his Heavenly Annihilation Energy couldn't break through it. The Heavenly Annihilation Energy was extremely powerful. In the past, it could even destroy time and space. However, it was ineffective now. This also showed that there was no such thing as an invincible power. It depended on the user. When the quantity of a low-level power reached a certain level, it could still suppress a high-level power. Everyone else at the scene was also dumbfounded and tongue-tied. As long as they weren't fools, they could tell that Yi Hanlin was completely at a disadvantage. He was no match for Bubble. Now, they finally understood why Yi Chu Qianyue asked Yi Hanlin to surrender. It was because Yi Hanlin was no match for Bubbles. Yi Qianyue was thinking for Yi Hanlin. Unfortunately, Yi Hanlin didn't believe Yi Qianyue at first. It was too late for regrets now. Crush him! Bubble shouted. She pressed her hands together and the space-time force pressed down on Yi Hanlin. Yi Hanlin coughed out a mouthful of blood. He couldn't withstand it. Even the saber in his hand that was formed by the heavenly annihilation energy dimmed and collapsed. Immediately after, the space-time force wrapped around Yi Hanlin, preventing him from moving at all. Get lost! With a wave of his hand, Yi Hanlin's body was sent flying out of the fighting stage. Bubble didn't kill Yi Hanlin. She didn't humiliate him either, even though she wanted to. However, Bubble had her scruples. She had to be careful of the space-time spirit rats. If she went overboard, it would be disadvantageous to the space-time spirit rats. Chapter 4406. Flying out of the ring was tantamount to defeat. Yi Hanlin flew back to the lotus, and the lotus flew back to its original position. Its height began to decrease, from 40 feet to 30 feet. Bubble, on the other hand, rose from 40 feet to 30 feet, temporarily looking down on everyone. Damn space-time spirit rats, I'll wipe out your sect, wipe out your sect. Yi Hanlin kept roaring in his heart. He was furious. Although Bubble did not deliberately humiliate him, his performance before and after was still very embarrassing. At first, he was very confident. He asked Bubble to admit defeat as soon as he came up, as if he was sure to win. Later on, Yi Chu Qianyue asked him to admit defeat, but he did not agree. He still thought that he had Bubble in the bag, so he decisively attacked. In the end, he was easily defeated by Bubble. The comparison between before and after was a slap in the face. Instead, it was he who deliberately gave Bubble the slap in the face. No one could stop him. Therefore, although Bubble did not deliberately humiliate him, he was still full of hatred for Bubble. If Bubble had been defeated by him, this would not have happened. Would he have lost face? However, at this time, 2 more lotus flowers flew to the ring. The competition continued. It was a duel between 40 feet tall. The winner's lotus root rose to 50 feet, while the loser's lotus root fell back to 30 feet. The competition continued one after another. Xian Yanqing, Autumn Moon, and Dandan had all competed. Their opponents were not very strong, so they defeated them easily. At the same time, Lu Ming also saw Ling Yue. She had taken a drop of the 5 elements fairy tear and had undergone a perfect evolution. Her strength was unfathomable, and she defeated her opponent easily. From time to time, she would sneak a glance at Lu Ming. However, when Lu Ming looked at her, she quickly averted her gaze, expressionless. Lu Ming smiled bitterly. He had hurt another woman's heart, but he did not do it on purpose. Xian Yanqing, Autumn Moon, and Dandan did not meet any strong opponents. The lotus root successfully rose to 50 feet tall. However, Yiling's luck was not very good. He met a strong opponent. Gabbert. Yes, coincidentally, Yiling met Gabbert in the second round. Heaven Destroyer? Very well, I'll make sure you die a horrible death. Gabbert sneered and spread his 12 golden wings. The golden holy light seemed to be boiling. Nonsense, let's do it. Yiling could not be bothered to talk nonsense with Gabbert. He immediately attacked, transforming into a beam of sword light as he charged towards Gabbert. Kill. Gabbert also shouted. Golden holy light condensed into a golden battle sword and slashed at Yilin. The 2 dazzling sword lights met in the air, and a shocking explosion burst forth. The place where the swords collided was like a sun exploding. Endless sword chi spread out in all directions, leaving fine sword marks on the fighting ring. However, these sword marks quickly disappeared. This battle platform seemed to have a self-healing function. Cracks or marks could be repaired automatically. Amidst the sword light that filled the sky, a figure retreated several hundred meters. It was Yiling. As for Gabbert, he did not move at all. In the previous exchange, Yiling was actually at a disadvantage. Even Lu Ming was surprised. Gabbert's combat strength has increased so much. Even Yiling is no match for him. A thought flashed through Lu Ming's mind. Lu Ming had met Gabbert when he had just entered the second level of the Taishang Immortal City. At that time, Gabbert's combat strength was only 6 stars. Now it had reached such a terrifying level. Yi Ling's combat strength had reached the limit of 9 stars. Gabbert could suppress Yi Ling, which was enough to show that Gabbert's combat strength had reached 10 stars. This was close to the combat strength of the Heavenly Princess. It was absolutely shocking. There were not many Emperor gods in the entire universe. Great! When the angels saw this, they could not help but cheer loudly. They were very excited. Heaven Destroyer Prodigy, die! Gabbert was extremely excited. He shouted and continued to attack Yi Ling Clang. The sound of a sword rang out from Yi Ling's body. He turned into a sword light and flew in another direction. He was no match for Gabbert in a head-on collision. Then, he could only use a wandering method to slowly exhaust his opponent's strength. Having a higher combat strength by 1 star did not mean that he would definitely win. Those who had a lower combat strength by 1 star did not necessarily lose. Under certain circumstances, there was still a possibility of a comeback. Of course, in a head-on collision, having a higher combat strength by 1 star would definitely give him an overall advantage. Therefore, Yi Ling did not want to clash head-on with his opponent. If he could exhaust his opponent's strength, he would have a chance of winning. Humph, you want to use this method to deal with me? How naive! Holy light judgment, Gabbert roared. Holy light erupted, and a huge cross condensed in the sky. Lu Ming had seen it when he fought Gabbert. Gilbert trained in a single type of divine power, but he had mastered 2 types of quintessence secret arts. The Holy Light Judgment Cross was one of his origin secret techniques. However, it was pure white at that time. Now it was golden. Its power was countless times more terrifying than before. The golden cross floated in the air, emitting a dazzling holy light that enveloped every corner of the fighting ring. Then, beams of light flew out from the cross of holy light. These beams of light were sharper than the sharpest sword, and they were aimed at Yi Ling. Although Yi Ling was very fast and kept flashing on the fighting ring, there were too many beams of light flying out from the holy light cross. They were densely packed and covered the entire fighting ring. It was difficult to count. Yi Ling could not avoid all of them. He could only block with his sword. Clang, clang, clang. The sound of swords clashing rang out continuously. In the blink of an eye, there were dozens of clashes. After dozens of clashes, the sword light that Yi Ling had transformed into suddenly trembled and collapsed. His body emerged and retreated rapidly. There was a bloody hole in his chest. It was clear that he had been pierced by the beams of the holy light cross. Die! Gabbert shouted and continued to control the holy light cross. More beams of light blasted towards Yi Ling. Yi Ling did not hesitate. He turned around and rushed out of the fighting ring. He was giving up the battle and admitting defeat. You must die once. Gabbert shouted coldly. His eyes flashed with cold, killing intent. He would not let Yi Ling escape from the fighting ring so easily. This time, he wanted to make a name for himself and catch the attention of the important people in the Heavenly Palace. From then on, he would become the core of the Heavenly Palace. This was his goal. Every one of his opponents would become his stepping stones, especially Yi Ling, a prodigy from the Heaven Exterminating Troop. A blood-red sword appeared between his eyebrows. This was Gabbert's second origin secret technique, Holy Light Sanction. Swoosh! The blood-red sword light pierced towards Yi Ling. Chapter 4407. Holy Light Sanction was Gabbert's second origin secret technique. It was even more powerful than the first origin secret technique. The Sanction longsword was blood-red. It blended in with the light beam and pierced toward Yi Ling's forehead at an alarming speed. Yi Ling was already injured. Furthermore, he had to focus on defending against the Holy Light Cross. He could not dodge the Sanction longsword. Poof! The longsword pierced through Yi Ling's forehead and killed Lu Ming. Luckily, this was the area covered by the Taishang Immortal City. With the protection of the special lotus, he could revive. Yi Ling quickly revived on the lotus. However, he looked pale and his breath was weak. Gabbert did not even look at Yi Ling. Instead, he held the Sanction longsword and pointed it at Lu Ming. He said in a cold voice, "Lu Ming, it will be your turn soon." That's what I wanted to say to you. Lu Ming replied coldly. Gabbert chuckled. He took a step forward and returned to the lotus. His refined rhizome had grown to 15 meters tall. The competition continued. After a while, it was finally Lu Ming's turn. However, this time, Lu Ming's opponent was very weak. He was not from the heavenly human tribe but from another large tribe. His opponent was a strong man. He was a 9th-level godly god with a 5-star battle power. This kind of ability was considered top-notch among the god thearchs in the universe. However, compared to someone like Lu Ming, the difference was too great. Facing Lu Ming, this person did not dare to fight and immediately admitted defeat. Lu Ming won easily. The lotus roots under Lu Ming's feet had also reached 5 feet. Only a few of the later matches piqued Lu Ming's interest. These matches were between top-notch geniuses. One of them was Di Jianyi. Di Jianyi was up against a top-notch genius on the Universe Prodigy list. This genius was ranked 15th on the Universe Prodigy list. Without a doubt, he was a top-notch genius with a 9-star battle power. However, when he was up against Di Jianyi, he was instantly killed by Di Jianyi. Yes, it had only taken one sword strike to kill an absolute genius ranked 15th on the Universe Genius list. At the same time that they were shocked, they also firmly remembered Di Jianyi in their hearts. Di Jianyi, no one had heard of this name before and no one had seen him before. However, when he attacked, he was extremely stunning. He definitely had the qualifications to compete for the last 130 places. This also made it clear that this time, in addition to the geniuses on the surface, there were also many dark horses. After the 4 Jiangtal competition, it was time for the 2 Jiangtal competition. The second round of the competition also required 18,000 matches, and it also took more than a month to finish all of them. After the competition this time, there were many changes to the scene. There were more areas of different heights. It was mainly divided into 3 areas. There were 9,000 people with lotus roots that reached 15 meters. None of them were 4 zhang tall. Those whose lotus roots were 10 meters long were the most numerous, numbering 18,000 people. He didn't have any with a height of 20 feet. He had 9,000 people with a height of 10 feet. In the first 2 rounds of the competition, no one was really eliminated. However, from the 3rd round onwards, there would be people eliminated. In the 9 Jiangtal area, half of the living beings were destined to be eliminated. This made the people in the 10 Jiangtal area have a strong fighting spirit, revealing the determination to fight to the death. Especially those who thought that they were talented but had bad luck in the first 2 rounds, they were even more eager to fight and were ready to fight. Very quickly, the 3rd round began. This round actually started from the 10 Jiangtal area. In the 10 Jiangtal area, 2 lotuses flew to the fighting ring and the 3rd round of the competition began. However, Lu Ming wasn't interested in watching. There weren't any strong experts in the 10 Jiangtal area. Even if there were people with bad luck, it was very rare for them to encounter strong opponents for 2 consecutive rounds. There weren't many people who could attract Lu Ming's attention. Lu Ming sat cross-legged on the lotus, closed his eyes, and calmed his mind to comprehend the secret technique, hoping to comprehend a second secret technique that belonged to him. He could imagine that if he wanted to break through from the God Emperor realm to the Divine Lord realm, he would have to comprehend his own secret technique. Moreover, it would have to be a stronger secret technique to break through the bottleneck and break through to the Divine Lord realm. He didn't want to waste any time. 7 or 8 days later, the competition in the 10 Jiangtal area ended. Among them, 4,500 people failed. The lotus roots completely disappeared, which meant that they were completely defeated. Although the people who were killed were resurrected, they were also sent out of the light barrier to stay with the spectators. The other 4,500 people were raised to 20 feet tall. Then, it was the 3 Jiangtal area's turn. Lu Ming still didn't open his eyes to watch the competition, continuing to comprehend. There were 18,000 people in the 3 Jiangtal area. It took more than half a month for the competition to end. 9,000 people were raised to the 4 Jiangtal area, and the other 9,000 were lowered to the 2 Jiangtal area. Finally, it was the 5 Jiangtal area's turn. At this time, Lu Ming opened his eyes and began to observe. Although he had enough confidence now, He couldn't let his guard down. He wanted to see if there were any hidden experts who could pose a threat to him. The competition was carried out one after another. In this round, Autumn Moon and Dandan both met powerful opponents. Among them, Autumn Moon's opponent was a top-notch genius who had a 10-star battle prowess. He was also from the Heavenly Human Tribe. But this time, Yichu Qianyue directly asked the Heavenly Human Tribe genius to admit defeat. Although the Heavenly Human Tribe's elite was extremely reluctant, he still admitted defeat after what had happened to Bubble previously. This was shocking. Could it be that Autumn Moon was as powerful as Bubble? Many people remembered Autumn Moon's performance in their hearts. Dandan's opponent was a burly man who had a 9-star battle prowess. He was easily defeated by Dandan. There were also some very powerful people in the prime of their lives. Among them, there were also top-notch geniuses. Of course, some of the top-notch geniuses in the prime of their lives had already stepped into the Divine Master realm. However, there were also some geniuses who suppressed their cultivation and didn't break through. Or because of various reasons, they couldn't break through. This kind of person also had terrifying battle prowess. After all, they had been cultivating for too long. Some of them had been cultivating for almost a star year. Therefore, Lu Ming wouldn't underestimate the prime of their lives. After this battle, Autumn Moon and Dandan successfully entered the eyes of everyone and were remembered. They were also regarded as existences who could almost enter the top 130. In this round, Xian Yanqing and Ling Yue didn't meet any strong opponents and successfully advanced. The lotus root rose to 6 zhang tall. Lu Ming's luck seemed to be very good. The opponent he met in this round wasn't strong. He easily defeated his opponent and won. In this round, the one who attracted Lu Ming's interest was Dark Knight Rose. She met an opponent with a 10-star battle prowess. This was a top-notch genius who was on the Heaven Destroyer's side. He was even more famous than Yi Ling. However, he was easily defeated by Dark Knight Rose. Chapter 4408. Dark Knight Rose easily defeated a prodigy with a 10-star battle power, which attracted everyone's attention and discussion. Even the Son of Heaven and Daughter of Heaven revealed shocked and grave expressions. The important figures of the Heavenly Palace who were watching the battle also looked at Dark Knight Rose. To be able to defeat a prodigy with a 10-star battle power so easily, one could imagine how terrifying her own battle power was. It was very likely that she had an 11-star battle power. One had to know that most of the sons and daughters of heaven only had an 11-star battle power. This battle power was comparable to that of the sons and daughters of heaven. There was a bubble that appeared before, which was obviously an 11-star battle power. Then there was a Autumn Moon. Yichu Qianyue directly asked a heavenly human prodigy with a 10-star battle power to admit defeat. It was suspected that he had an 11-star battle power. Including Dark Knight Rose now, there were 3 of them. What was going on? Was the world going to change? In the past, the sons and daughters of heaven who had an 11-star battle power were undoubtedly the dominators of their peers. It was difficult to find anyone who could match them in the entire universe. But now, there were 3 of them. Who knew how many of them had not used their full strength and were still hiding their strength? For example, Dandan and Di Jinni had both easily defeated 9-star battle power existences. It was hard to guess how strong they were. In addition, it was unknown whether Gabbert's battle power had reached its limit. This was unimaginable in the past. Many heavenly human prodigies' faces were particularly gloomy. This was not a good sign for the heavenly human tribe. The prodigies of the various races and factions were too powerful. They were comparable to the sons and daughters of heaven. In other words, when this group of prodigies grew to the peak, this group of heavenly human prodigies would not be able to suppress everyone. They would have opponents. This would seriously threaten the rule of the heavenly human tribe. If this was the case for every generation, sooner or later, there would be a force that could rival the heavenly palace. No, the heavenly palace, or the heavenly human tribe, would never allow such a thing to happen, unless it could be used by them. Some divine masters and even heavenly venerables of the heavenly human tribe glanced at the top prodigies and memorized them. No one knew what they were thinking. The third round also took more than a month to complete. After this round, the number of people had decreased by 4,500. The total number of people was only 31,500. These 31,500 people were mainly divided into 3 regions. In the area where the lotus roots were 6 zhang tall, there were 4,500 people. The number of people with lotus roots that were 4 zhang tall was 13,500. There were also 13,500 people with lotus roots that were 20 feet tall. The gap between them was getting bigger and bigger. There were 3 zones, and each zone had a height difference of 20 feet. Then the third round began. This round started from the 20 feet area. By the time the competition was over, 6,750 people had descended to a height of 10 feet. Another 6,750 people rose to a height of 10 meters. Then, the competition began in the 40 zhang zone. After the competition ended, 6,750 people went down to the 30 zhang zone. In this way, the total number of people in the 3 zhang zone had reached 13,500. The remaining 6,750 people had leveled up to the 5 zhang zone. After the 4 zhang zone ended, it was time for the 6 zhang zone, which was where Lu Ming was. This time, Lu Ming's opponent was still not strong. Without any pressure, he won. This time, Xian Yanqing met a powerful prodigy with 10 stars. He was ranked in the top 10 on the Universe Prodigy list. This person was naturally not Xian Yanqing's opponent and was defeated by Xian Yanqing. This caused an uproar among the crowd. They were all shocked beyond words. There was one more person who could be compared to the heavenly princess. Yi Chu Tianji, Yi Chu Qianyue. A few people were less shocked because they knew Xian Yanqing's strength. Especially Yi Chu Tianji, who had fought with Xian Yanqing before and knew how terrifying Xian Yanqing was. As for Lu Ming's acquaintances, Dark Knight Rose, Di Jianyi, Yin Jiuling and others, they did not meet any strong opponents. They all successfully leveled up their lotus roots by 10 feet to 20 feet. After this round, according to the height, there were a total of 4 zones. There were 2,250 people in the 20-foot zone. There were 9,000 people in the 50-foot zone. There were 13,500 people in the 30-foot zone. There were 6,750 people in the 10-foot zone. The 4 zones were divided into 4 grades. Lu Ming and the others were in the 70-foot zone, which naturally belonged to the first grade and also the strongest grade. Yi Ling and the others were in the 50-foot zone, which belonged to the second grade. The 30-foot zone belonged to the third grade. The 10-foot zone belonged to the fourth grade. Following that, there would be more and more grades, and the gap would become bigger and bigger. Soon, the 5th round began. In this round, another 3,375 people in the 10-foot zone were eliminated. Then it was the 30-foot zone, and then the 50-foot zone. In this round, Lu Ming still did not meet a strong opponent and still defeated his opponent easily. In this round, there were people who were not very famous, such as Ling Yue and Yin Jiuling, who had defeated strong opponents. After this round, there were still 4 grades. However, there was a big change in the number of people. Lu Ming and the others were in the first grade, and there were only 1,125 people left. The second grade had 5,625 people. Then, the 6th round began. As the competition continued, there were more and more rounds, and there were more and more grades. However, there was basically no point in competing for those at the back. It was impossible for those with real strength to be so unlucky and lose all the time. It was almost impossible for those at the back to compete for the first 130 places. Only those at the first 2 grades could compete for the first 130 places. For example, Yi Ling, Bubbles, or the 10-star prodigies from Autumn Moon, they were all in the second grade and had a high chance of competing for the 130 places. Not many people paid attention to those at the back. Of course, according to the rules, the competition still had to continue. It was just that some people had lost their fighting spirit, and some people still hoped to climb up. The competition went round after round. Of course, in the later rounds, there would be odd numbers. For example, from the 6th round onwards, there were odd numbers in the first and second grades. In this case, the odd number in the second grade would challenge the odd number in the first grade. If the challenge was 1, The person in the second grade would successfully be promoted to the first grade. Just like that, round after round went on. Lu Ming's luck suddenly exploded. Since the first round, when he met the 9-star heavenly human, he had not met a strong opponent. The lotus root rose all the way. Chapter 4409. 80 feet, 90 feet, 100 feet. The number of people in the first two levels was decreasing. The number of people in the first level went from 1,125 to 562, then to 281. The number of people in the second level was decreasing as well. When the number of people in the first level was reduced to 70, the old voice sounded again. At this point, the rules of the competition need to be changed. I now announce that the 70 people in the first level will all enter the 130 spots and obtain the opportunity to connect to the Universe C. The remaining 60 people will be selected from the second level. The second level will be a tag team battle. The 60 people with the best battle records will also be selected. After the 130 spots are selected, the specific ranking battle will begin. As for the rest, they will all be eliminated. The old voice announced a series of new rules. Then, starting from the third level, everyone was sent out by a force. Obviously, these people had been eliminated. However, these people did not have any objections. They just sighed. This was because they already knew that it would be difficult for them to rush up and enter the top 130 spots. Then, the second level began the tag team battle. Everyone had to fight with others and then see their battle records. The person with the best battle record would enter the top 130 spots. Fierce battles broke out. This tag team battle went on for more than a month. In the end, 60 people stood out and entered the top 130 spots. These 60 people were the best of the best. Many of them had a 10-star battle power. In fact, most of the 70 people in the first level had a 10-star battle power. In the entire universe, there were many who had a 10-star battle power. For example, the top 10 on the Universe Prodigy list almost all had a 10-star battle power. On the Heaven Destroyer side, there were more than a dozen who had a 10-star battle power. Of course, the Celestial race had the most. There were at least 60 or 70 people with a 10-star battle power. In addition to Dark Knight Rose and the others, there were close to 100 people with a 10-star battle power. These people with a 10-star battle power were almost all guaranteed to enter the top 130 spots. In other words, those with a 10-star battle power and below could only compete for about 30 spots. One could imagine how fierce the competition was. Yi Ling had a 9-star battle power. In the end, after fierce battles, he finally succeeded in entering the top 130 spots. This way, the 130 people who were qualified to connect to Universe Ocean and comprehend the Seed of Origin were all selected. However, the competition wasn't over yet. This was because when connecting to Universe Ocean, the location was also very important. Different locations had different effects of connecting to Universe Ocean, and there were both good and bad effects. Some positions would be more effective, while others would be less effective. These positions all needed to be competed for. 130 slots, divided into 5 different ranks. The higher the level of the position, the better the effect of connecting to Universe Ocean, and the faster the speed of comprehending the Seed of Origin, the higher the probability of condensing the Seed of Origin, and the bigger the Seed of Origin. Among them, there is only one spot for the first level, and it will be taken by the strongest person. There are 3 spots for the second level, which will be taken by the second to 4th place. There are 9 spots for the third level, which will be taken by the 5th to 13th place. There are 36 slots for the 4th level. There are 81 slots for the 5th level. The old voice gave a detailed introduction. There were exactly 130 slots for the 5 ranks. Many people's eyes lit up, and there was a greedy gleam in their eyes. There were 5 ranks, and they all wanted to rush to a higher rank. They didn't dare to hope for first place or the second level, but they could hope for the 3rd and 4th levels. Among the 130 people, no one wanted the 5th level. This was because the 5th level had already been decided. No matter what, they could get it. Naturally, they wouldn't think about the 5th level, and they all wanted a higher level. It didn't mean that one of the 130 slots would be able to comprehend the Seed of Origin. No, it wasn't that easy. That was the origin, which could only be comprehended by those in the origin realm. How difficult was that? Even if it was just the seed of origin, the difficulty was very high. It wasn't as if one could comprehend the seed of origin with just one slot. Some people still couldn't comprehend the seed of origin. However, the higher the level of the position, the better the effect, and the higher the probability of comprehending the seed of origin. Even if the seed of origin was comprehended, there were differences in quality and size. Therefore, the higher the position, the better. For example, Yi Chu Tianji and Yi Ling Hongye's eyes shone brilliantly. Their goal was to be first place. For the heavenly daughters like Yi Chu Qianyue, their goal was to be in the second level, the 3 slots. Everyone had their own goal. However, Lu Ming only had one goal. First place. Buzz. At this moment, the huge battle platform shook. Lines appeared on the surface of the battle platform. No, they were cracks. These cracks divided the battle platform into 7 pieces. Crack, crack. The battle platform split into 7 pieces along the cracks and flew in all directions. They floated in the air and began to expand. In the end, 7 battle platforms appeared in the air. Next, the 130 people will be divided into 7 groups. There will be 4 groups of 19 people and 3 groups of 18 people. You will take turns to fight against others on the battle platform. The 7 people with the best results on each battle platform will advance to the top 49. The old voice sounded again, explaining the rules of the competition. The top 49 happened to be in the first 4 levels. In other words, if they could win this round, they could at least enter the first 4 levels and surpass the 5th level. As soon as the old voice sounded, the lotuses under everyone's feet began to move. Lu Ming flew to the battle platform in the middle. There were 19 people and 19 lotuses surrounding the battle platform. The other 6 battle platforms were about the same. There were either 19 or 18 people surrounding their respective battle platforms, separated by a distance of 100 miles. The 19 people on the middle battle platform immediately sized each other up. Because they were all opponents, they had to fight one by one. Yue, Gabbert, and Yi Chu Qianyue. What a coincidence! Lu Ming's eyes flashed as he saw a few familiar faces. Ling Yue, Gabbert, and Yi Chu Qianyue were all on this battle platform. Xian Yanqing, Autumn Moon, and Wan Shen were on other battle platforms. Chapter 44:10. Fortunately, Xian Yanqing, Autumn Moon, Wan Shen, Dandan, and Bubbles were not on the same stage. Ah, Lu Ming, your luck is not very good. We are finally going to meet. This time, I will make you very miserable. Gabbert laughed and stared at Lu Ming. His eyes were cold and filled with cold killing intent. When he thought of the pain of losing his wings last time, his hatred for Lu Ming was about to explode. Last time, he had lost his wings and escaped. He was seriously injured and his vitality was greatly damaged. If he had not encountered a great opportunity later, his talent would have been reduced. He was always thinking about revenge and making Lu Ming suffer a fate worse than death. Now, he and Lu Ming were finally on the same stage. His chance had finally come. Everyone in the fighting ring had to exchange blows with each other. He and Lu Ming would have to face each other sooner or later. His chance for revenge had come. Last time, you broke your wings and escaped. This time, I will break your wings with my own hands. Lu Ming said. His voice was indifferent and full of contempt. This made Gabbert's eyes even colder. Yi Chu Qianyue's eyes were also cold. Lu Ming, there are a lot of people who want to kill you. It seems that you will die several times in this round of battle. Yi Chu Qianyue said. His meaning was obvious. Gabbert would kill him once, and he would also kill Lu Ming once. You are all very confident. I look forward to you being able to maintain this confidence until the end. Lu Ming said with a smile. Don't worry, you will see. Yi Chu Qianyue said. As for Ling Yue, she did not speak from beginning to end. Occasionally, she would look at Lu Ming with a complicated expression. The other stages were similar. They were all sizing each other up. In particular, the Heaven Destroyer and the Heavenly Human Tribe cultivators were exchanging insults with each other. The battle hadn't even begun, and there was already a strong scent of gunpowder in the air. The spectators outside were also discussing, guessing who would be able to enter the top 49, the top 13, and the top 4. However, no one was optimistic about Lu Ming. This was because Lu Ming's cultivation was too low. Even though Lu Ming's fighting strength was terrifying, he had the strength of 12 stars, but he only had the strength of the 8th Great Supreme God layer. Even though Lu Ming had 12-star fighting strength, he was only as strong as a cultivator of the 9th Great Supreme God layer. With such combat strength, being able to enter 130 places was already considered lucky. There was a great element of luck involved. One had to know that among these 130 people, there were close to 100 people who possessed 10-star battle prowess. The other 30 or so people possessed 9-star battle prowess. In fact, there were at least several hundred people who possessed 9-star battle prowess. Only 30 out of hundreds of people had entered 130 places. Apart from strength, there was also a certain element of luck involved. Therefore, most people thought that Lu Ming would stop there. It was impossible for him to enter the top 49. Begin! The old voice sounded again. Afterward, 2 lotus flowers flew toward the fighting ring where Lu Ming and the rest were. One of them was Lu Ming. Coincidentally, the other person was Gabbert. Even Lu Ming himself was a little surprised. Although he knew that he would meet Gabbert sooner or later, he didn't expect to meet him in the first round. Oh, Lu Ming, it seems like God is helping me. Gabbert laughed and landed on the stage. Is that so? Are you sure God is helping you? Lu Ming revealed a mocking smile and stepped onto the fighting ring. Lu Ming, you're very confident. I hope you won't admit defeat. Gabbert said. Don't worry. There's no such thing as admitting defeat in my eyes. Lu Ming replied indifferently. Very well. Gabbert showed a ferocious look. As soon as he finished his word, he rushed towards Lu Ming. On his back, 12 angel wings emitted a dazzling golden light. The golden holy light boiled and turned into 2 golden holy light swords, slashing towards Lu Ming's shoulders. He wanted to cut off Lu Ming's arms to avenge his broken wings. However, before his sword gleam could hit him, Lu Ming moved and disappeared from his original spot. He appeared on the other side of the fighting ring. His speed was so fast that he dodged Gabbert's attack perfectly. Gabbert, use all your strength. Even if you lose, I'll make you admit defeat. Lu Ming said lightly. There was a strong sense of contempt in his voice. Gabbert's anger surged. The golden holy light burned like a golden flame. Holy light judgment, holy light sanction, Gabbert roared. A golden cross appeared above his body. In addition, there was a blood-red longsword. At this moment, Gabbert unleashed his combat strength to its peak. He used 2 origin source secret techniques at the same time. 10-star combat strength. When Gilbert pushed his battle prowess to its peak, he had completely stepped into the 10-star level. Previously, he had used this move to kill Yi Ling in one fell swoop. Lu Ming, I'm going to blast you to smithereens with one move. Gabbert roared. The golden holy light cross pressed down on Lu Ming. Thousands of light beams pierced towards Lu Ming like sharp swords. At the same time, the blood-red sanction longsword was launched. It was mixed in with the thousands of light beams and pierced towards Lu Ming's forehead. The 2 origin source secret techniques complemented each other perfectly. It was very dangerous. However, Lu Ming's expression was normal. He allowed the 2 attacks to approach him. When the 2 attacks were only 10 meters away from him, Lu Ming made his move. Boom! His body erupted like a volcano, releasing a terrifying aura. Then, Lu Ming threw out a punch. The violent energy was like an avalanche as it blasted forward. Wherever the fist energy passed, the holy light beams were all destroyed. Finally, the fist energy hit the sanction longsword. The sanction longsword shook violently and was shattered. The fist force didn't stop there. It continued to bombard the golden cross of holy light, causing it to explode. With one punch, all of Gabbert's attacks were destroyed. Gabbert's body shook violently. He retreated and coughed up blood. 9th level Divine God. Gilbert let out a roar of disbelief and shock. Indeed, a moment ago, Lu Ming had revealed his cultivation base of the 9th level Divine God layer. In an instant, his strength had increased tremendously. Gabbert could not resist at all. He had been severely injured in one move. What? 9th level Divine God Layer? How is that possible? I just observed carefully. Lu Ming's cultivation base is only of the 8th level Divine God Layer. He must have used some special method to hide his aura. How terrifying. Lu Ming's cultivation base is of the 9th level Divine God Layer. Then, with his fighting strength of 12 stars. At the thought of this, many people sucked in cold breaths of air, revealing deep shock. 9th level Divine God Layer, 12 stars of fighting strength, how terrifying was that? Who could defeat him? Chapter 44:11. A 9th level Emperor God with 12 stars of fighting strength. That was terrifying. It was said that there were such people in the heavenly human tribe, but they were rare. Lu Ming had reached such a level? How is this possible? Around the fighting ring, Yi Chu Qianyue's body shook violently. His eyes were filled with shock and disbelief. Such battle prowess was already above his. He found it hard to accept. Because he had acted high and mighty in front of Lu Ming, as if he could defeat Lu Ming. He had even said that he would kill Lu Ming. But now, Lu Ming's fighting strength was not something he could deal with. How was he going to face Lu Ming in the future? For a moment, Yi Chu Qianyue's mind was in a mess. Buzz. Around the other fighting ring, the long sword behind Di Jenny's back buzzed. The sword chime reverberated through the sky. His eyes were filled with strong fighting spirit. Both he and Lu Ming had come from the small Kiliacosm. They had come from a small place in the primitive universe. Di Jenny had always wanted to defeat Lu Ming and prove that he was the first person to come from the small Kiliacosm. But when he saw Lu Ming's current fighting strength, he felt great pressure. Interesting. No wonder I think highly of him. It's a pity. Dark Knight Rose's eyes shone with a strange light. Amazing. Ha! As for Wan Xin, he clapped and laughed. He was close to Lu Ming. The stronger Lu Ming was, the happier he was. Lu Ming did not care about what the people around him thought. At this moment, he had disappeared from where he was and pounced on Gabbert. Fast, too fast. It was so fast that Gabbert could not dodge it. Get out of my way! Gabbert roared. His 12 wings emitted dazzling holy light and turned into 12 golden battle swords. They slashed at Lu Ming. This attack was very powerful. Gabbert had gone all out and burned his divine power. However, Lu Ming's fighting strength had reached 12 stars. His fighting strength was 2 stars higher than Gabbert's. 2-star battle prowess was much stronger. It was not something that could be equalized by risking one's life. Lu Ming's fingers formed a claw and grabbed down. His 5 fingers were like 5 spears, incomparably sharp. The claw caught the 12 golden swords. With a clang, the 12 golden swords exploded like rotten wood. The 12 golden battle swords exploded one after another. In the blink of an eye, all 12 golden battle swords had exploded. Lu Ming's claws had already grasped Gabbert's golden wings. I've said it before, I'll personally break your wings, Lu Ming's cold voice sounded. No, Gabbert roared. However, Lu Ming had already made his move and tore with all his might. Blood splattered everywhere as golden feathers fluttered in the air. Gabbert's 2 golden wings had been forcibly torn off by Lu Ming. Gabbert screamed. His long hair fluttered in the wind. His aura was rapidly weakening. Wings were the most important part of the angel race. It was also where the angel race's talent and potential condensed. For the angel race, the more wings they had, the stronger their talent and potential. If one's wings were broken, it meant that one's talent and potential were broken. Not only would one's cultivation rapidly weaken, but one's potential would also weaken. The last time Gabbert broke his wings to escape, he was forced to do so. If he didn't escape, he would be killed by Lu Ming. Hence, he could only break his wings to escape. At that time, his vitality was greatly damaged. If he hadn't encountered a heaven-defying opportunity, he wouldn't have been able to recover at all. This time, his wings were broken again. Moreover, they weren't broken by himself. They were broken by Lu Ming. Last time, he encountered a good opportunity and recovered. Would there be such a good opportunity in the future? It was difficult. A heaven-defying opportunity could only be encountered by chance. Even though one could recover if one was killed on the lotus, one's potential that was severed could not be recovered. He was filled with hatred. He roared and stared at Lu Ming. Lu Ming, you deserve to die. You deserve to die. Sooner or later, I will take my revenge 10 times or 100 times, Gabbert kept roaring as if he had gone mad. Damn it. Among the spectators outside, there were also experts from the angel race. At this time, they were also roaring. Gabbert was an existence who had awakened the Angel King bloodline. Such a bloodline was too rare. In the history of the angel race, there were only a few people who could achieve it. As long as Gabbert grew to the peak in the future, there would be one more overlord in the universe. His strength would be unparalleled. The strength of the angel race would definitely be stronger. They might even be able to suppress the other 8 races of the top 10 seeds. But now, Gabbert's wings were broken. His talent and potential were weakening. This was a huge loss for the angel race. They were heartbroken. Naturally, their hatred for Lu Ming was monstrous. Why are you screaming? I'm not done yet, Lu Ming said indifferently. He immediately grabbed Gabbert's second pair of wings with both hands. Gabbert's screams stopped abruptly. His eyes were filled with fear. Lu Ming wanted to break his other wings. Breaking one pair of wings had already caused irreparable damage to him. Breaking the second pair of wings would cause even greater damage to him. No, 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 Gabbert screamed in horror. However, Lu Ming didn't show any mercy. On the other hand, if he fell into Gabbert's hands, Gabbert would definitely deal with him 10 times or 100 times more ruthless. There was no need to show mercy or sympathy to the enemy. Lu Ming tore Gabbert's second pair of wings with force. Gabbert was like a deflated balloon. His aura quickly weakened and the light in his eyes dimmed. No, don't, Gabbert screamed in agony. He wanted to admit defeat. However, how could Lu Ming let him admit defeat so easily? A powerful force surged over and completely controlled Gabbert. Gabbert couldn't utter a single word. Gabbert struggled with all his might. There was only fear in his eyes. Lu Ming's claws were already grabbing Gabbert's third pair of wings. Stop it! Stop it! Are you declaring war on the angel race? I swear, if you continue to attack, the angel race will not rest until you are dead. A few divine lords of the angel race shouted. Their eyes were red. If Lu Ming continued to break Gabbert's wings, Gabbert's Angel King bloodline would really be crippled. Not rest until you are dead? I'm so scared. Lu Ming mocked, but his hands didn't stop. He tore off Gabbert's third pair of wings. Gabbert's aura became even weaker. He collapsed to the ground. However, Lu Ming still didn't stop. He reached for Gabbert's fourth pair of wings. Although he couldn't kill Gabbert here, he could cripple him. Lu Ming didn't have the habit of leaving his enemies alive. Splat, splat, splat. Lu Ming continued to attack, tearing off Gabbert's last 3 pairs of wings. Gabbert's aura was extremely weak. He was completely crippled. Chapter 44:12. After breaking all of Gabbert's wings, Lu Ming kicked Gabbert's head and killed him. In the next moment, Gabbert came back to life on the lotus. However, his aura was extremely weak and his eyes were dim. There was only fear and deep hatred for Lu Ming. His 6 pairs of wings were all torn apart. It was too much damage to him. Even if he could recover and regain his previous talent, he would be lucky. Now that he had the Angel King bloodline, he could forget about it. Lu Ming, Lu Ming, Lu Ming. Gabbert kept growling. His hatred for Lu Ming was monstrous. However, Lu Ming didn't even look at him. He returned to the lotus and looked at the other battles in the distance. This guy. At this moment, Yi Chu Qianyue's heart was trembling. When he looked at Lu Ming, there was a hint of fear in his eyes. Yes, he was a little scared. He was afraid that he would end up like Gabbert if he fought with Lu Ming. His heart was in a mess. The battle continued. After Lu Ming left the fighting ring, 2 more lotuses flew toward the fighting ring. This time, it was a genius with a 10-star combat strength against a young man with a 9-star combat strength. There wasn't much suspense in this battle. The difference of 1 star of battle power was also a huge gap. Although there was a difference of 1 star of battle power, it was not impossible to make a comeback. However, there were very few people who could make a comeback. It was very difficult to turn the tables when one's combat strength was lower than the others by 1 star, unless their attributes were mutually restrained and they had a secret technique to restrain their opponent. In less than 10 moves, the 9-star combatant was defeated. In fact, there were only 4 9-star combatants in Lu Ming's fighting ring. After all, there were only about 30 9-star combatants in total. They were divided among the 7 fighting rings. There were about 4 or 5 9-star combatants in each ring. The rest of the combatants were all 10-star combatants. It could be said that every battle was a battle between the best. The battles on each battle platform were very exciting. The competition continued one after another. If there was a great disparity in strength, such as the difference in star-level combat power, the victor would be decided very quickly. However, if they had the same star-level combat power, they would usually have to go through a fierce battle to determine the winner. Most of the time, those with a combat strength of 10 stars would run into each other. After all, there were very few who had a combat strength of 11 stars. Not long after, Ling Yue went on stage. Her opponent was a brawny man with 10 stars of battle prowess from the celestial race. This time, Ling Yue displayed an astonishing battle prowess. A holy elven tree appeared and took root in the void. It was as if it had merged with Ling Yue, and a huge amount of essence energy surged into Ling Yue's body. Ling Yue drew her bow and shot an arrow. With merely a single arrow, that heavenly human clan's robust man was killed. The path of archery didn't have so many complicated tricks. What it had was an incomparably terrifying attack power. Once they made a move, life and death would be determined in an instant. This arrow shocked everyone present. Even the heavenly venerables were alarmed. This was because the power of this arrow had completely reached 11 stars. Another peerless genius with a combat strength of 11 stars had appeared. Many people's hearts were unable to calm down. This time, it was really too crazy. Terrifying geniuses kept surging out, causing the people of the celestial race to feel immense pressure. The faces of the people of the celestial race were somewhat gloomy. At the scene, there were also some people from the elf clan. When they saw this scene, they were all ecstatic. This was the elf princess, their princess. The elf princess was so powerful. When her cultivation reached the peak in the future, she would definitely be able to lead the elf clan to become more and more powerful. In the future, perhaps they could squeeze into the top 10 and become one of the top 10 races? How could they not be happy and excited? The hearts of the elf clan were filled with anticipation. Then, it was Yi Chu Qianyue's turn. When Yi Chu Qianyue's opponent saw that it was Yi Chu Qianyue, a son of heaven, he directly admitted defeat. Soon, this round of the competition was over. The second round began, and it was Lu Ming's turn to go on stage again. This time, Lu Ming's opponent was a young man with a 9-star combat strength. When he saw Lu Ming, he admitted defeat very straightforwardly. Lu Ming had a 12-star combat strength. There was no need for him to fight at all. Rather than being killed and losing his essence energy, he might as well save his strength to deal with others. Lu Ming easily won 2 consecutive victories. Lu Ming was not interested in the competition behind Lu Ming's battle platform. This was because Lu Ming already had an idea of who was the strongest. On this battle platform, the strongest should be him, Ling Yue, and Yi Chu Qianyue. The others only had a 10-star combat strength. Lu Ming did not take it to heart. It was worth mentioning that Gabbert's wings had been broken, and his combat strength had been greatly reduced. He had become the weakest person on this battle platform. After that, he went on stage once and was easily defeated. At the end of this round, Ling Yue and Yi Chu Qianyue had also won. Then the third round began. In this round, Lu Ming met an existence with a 10-star combat strength. The other party also admitted defeat very straightforwardly. Lu Ming easily won 3 consecutive victories. However, at this time, the battle on another battle platform attracted Lu Ming's attention. In fact, it also attracted the attention of others. This was because a pinnacle battle had unfolded there. Di Jinni was facing a son of heaven. That son of heaven had a combat strength of 11 stars, but Di Jinni also erupted with a shocking combat strength that had reached 11 stars. The two of them fought crazily and fought fiercely. After a few hundred moves, there was still no victor. This shocked everyone present. This was because another peerless monster had appeared, an existence comparable to the Son of Heaven. This was another peerless genius comparable to the Son of Heaven after Bubbles, Autumn Moon, Dandan, Ling Yue, Dark Night Rose, and Lu Ming. This level of genius was originally very rare, but now, one by one, they appeared like bamboo shoots after the rain. It was truly shocking. The key point was this still all? Probably not. Perhaps some people had yet to meet an opponent who could use their full strength and had yet to display their full strength. Some people were already numb. In the end, Di Jianyi and that Son of Heaven exchanged more than 500 moves, but there was no victor. Then, that old voice sounded, judging the two of them to be tied. This was the first battle between the Son of Heaven and Daughter of Heaven. And later, the number of battles of this level slowly increased. For example, Bubbles also met a Daughter of Heaven. The two of them exchanged more than 200 moves. In the end, Bubbles relied on the profoundness of the space-time power to slightly win. In a battle of the same level, the Daughter of Heaven was actually defeated. This made the faces of the heavenly human race extremely ugly. Later on, Dandan also met an opponent. However, his opponent was extremely terrifying. His combat strength had reached the limit of 11 stars. Even among the Son of Heaven and Daughter of Heaven, he was an extremely strong existence. After a great battle, Dandan was finally defeated with a weak disadvantage. Chapter 44:13. After some time, Xian Yanqing finally met a Son of Heaven. There were a total of 9 heavenly daughters in the 4 heavenly palace, and there were only 7 battle platforms. In other words, there would be at least 1 heavenly daughter on each battle platform. Sooner or later, they would encounter each other again. This battle caused a huge commotion. Everyone was stunned, including those in the Origin realm. This was because Xian Yanqing had defeated the Son of Heaven in an unstoppable manner. It was too shocking. It was too unbelievable. Who in the world could defeat a Son of Heaven in an unstoppable manner? In the past, it was rumored that only the top figures among the heavenly daughters could do so, but now, there was one more. 12 stars of battle prowess. Needless to say, Xian Yanqing definitely had a 12-star battle prowess. There were countless geniuses in the world. After Lu Ming, another 12-star battle prowess had appeared. The faces of the divine masters and heavenly venerables of the heavenly human clan were already as gloomy as water. Lu Ming, Xian Yanqing. 2 such heaven-defying figures had already appeared. Even in the history of the heavenly human clan, there were not many such figures. The current generation of the heavenly human clan could be said to be very lucky. For 2 such figures to appear at once was already a rare occurrence in hundreds of millions of years. But now, outside of the heavenly human clan, 2 such figures had appeared. This meant that the younger generation of the heavenly human clan could no longer suppress the people of the other clans. It was difficult for them to accept such a thing. This was because such a thing had only happened in a few eras in history. For example, in the era of Fei Huang and Tang Feng. In the end, the facts also proved that after the people of that era became successful, they caused a tremendous impact on the heavenly palace. This impact had not disappeared even now. It was still continuing. They would not allow such a thing to happen again. The eyes of the heavenly venerables of the heavenly palace flickered, revealing cold killing intent. We can't let these people go. That's right. Send the news back. No matter what, we have to transfer some people here. After the highest supreme immortal city disappears, we have to kill all these people. The heavenly venerables secretly discussed. Where are we going to find the manpower? Demons are launching frequent attacks in the Dark Universe right now. There are plenty of Origin Realm demons, so we need many experts to guard against them. I can only transfer them from the ruins of the universe. At worst, I'll give up a portion of the benefits. However, these people must be eliminated. Once they succeed and join forces with Fei Huang, Tang Feng, and the others, the danger is too great. That's right, I agree. Let's spread the news. After several Empyrean-level characters finished their discussion, someone secretly spread the news. After Xian Yanqing defeated a Son of Heaven, there was another battle that attracted everyone's attention. That was a battle between two heavenly humans. Of the two celestial tribe members, one of them was a son of heaven with an unparalleled battle prowess of 11 stars. As for the other heavenly human tribe member, she was not one of the 9 heavenly sons and heavenly daughters, so she did not attract the attention of others before. But this time, it attracted everyone's attention. Facing this son of heaven, not only did he not admit defeat, but he was also very relaxed and calm. After son of heaven's words made the other side concede to no avail, he directly attacked. However, the result of the battle stunned everyone. That son of heaven was actually at a disadvantage. Moreover, it was not just a little, but a complete disadvantage. He was suppressed the entire time. In less than 10 moves, that son of heaven was defeated. He coughed up blood and left the battle stage. Everyone was dumbfounded, and then there was an uproar. Of course, after the heavenly human tribe members were shocked, they were ecstatic. Because a dark horse had appeared in the heavenly human tribe, a peerless monster whose reputation was not very famous before. Even those Empyrean-level characters were ecstatic. What is this child's name? How come I've never heard of him before? A Empyrean asked. A peerless monster who could easily defeat a son of heaven? How come I've never heard of him before? Lord Empyrean, I know this child. His name is Yi Qiuxian. In the past, his performance was not particularly outstanding among the younger generation, so he was overlooked by everyone. Now, it seems that this child was too low-key in the past and knew how to endure. But now, he has shocked the world with a single feat and soared into the sky. A divine lord realm heavenly human hurriedly replied. Yi Qiuxian good. The few Empyreans nodded and said, good, repeatedly. This Yi Qiuxian actually has such combat strength. Yi Chu Tianji and Yi Ling Hongye both frowned as they felt a strong pressure. To be able to defeat an 11-star son of heaven in just 10 moves, needless to say, Yi Qiuxian also had a 12-star combat strength, which was the same as them. Needless to say, the internal competition of the heavenly human tribe would be even more intense in the future. They had another strong opponent. More people were sighing. There were really too many experts this time. They kept appearing as if there was no end to them. In the past, 11-star combat strength was already the peak and was extremely rare in the entire universe. But now, there were one after another. Even 12-star combat strength, which could suppress an era in the universe, kept appearing. First, it was Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing. Now, even the heavenly human tribe had appeared. Many people sighed. This was an era of dazzling stars. It was an extraordinary era. It was very likely that the glorious era of 60 solar years ago would be recreated. 60 solar years ago, that era was also filled with dazzling stars. In the heavenly human tribe, experts were as common as clouds and terrifying sky prides. It was the same for the other tribes. There were even 2 taboos, Tang Feng and Flying Phoenix. That was an era of endless glory. In the end, the War of Annihilation broke out. Was such a glorious era going to be recreated? This person, Lu Ming, carefully sized up Yi Qiuxian. For some reason, he felt a strong pressure in his heart. Yes, this was an automatic feeling. He felt that Yi Qiuxian wasn't a simple person. He probably hadn't revealed his true strength in the previous battle. Perhaps, this will be a terrifying opponent. A thought emerged in Lu Ming's heart. The heavenly human tribe was indeed not simple and couldn't be underestimated. At this time, Lu Ming had already gone through 9 rounds of the competition. He didn't make a move during these 9 rounds. Those who met Lu Ming directly admitted defeat. After all, the gap was too obvious. The gap between him and the others was at least 2 stars. If there was a gap of 1 star, they might still be able to put up a fight and win. But the gap of 2 stars was too big. The possibility of winning was extremely small. Lu Ming easily obtained 9 consecutive victories. On their battle stage, Ling Yue and Yi Qiuye also easily obtained 9 consecutive victories. However, at the beginning of the 10th round, Lu Ming finally met an interesting opponent. Yi Qiuye. Chapter 44:14. That's right. Lu Ming's opponent this round was Yi Chu Chenyue. Lu Ming took a step forward and landed on the fighting ring. Yi Chu Qianyue also landed on the fighting ring and stood opposite Lu Ming. However, his face was extremely ugly. He stared at Lu Ming with a gloomy and dignified face. His whole body was covered with the power of heaven and he looked very nervous. Yi Chu Qianyue, we finally met. Very good. Come on, Lu Ming said. However, Yi Chu Qianyue did not dare to make a move. He stared at Lu Ming motionlessly and prepared himself. He did not dare to make a move because once he made a move, he would expose his flaws. Yi Chu Qianyue, are you going to admit defeat? I remember that you and Gilbert were singing the same tune as each other. You looked as if you were certain that you'd be able to defeat me. You personally said that you'd kill me once. Where did your heroic spirit go? I'm standing right here, so come and kill me. Lu Ming continued to shout. Damn it. Yi Chu Qianyue roared in his heart. His face was distorted because of anger. Lu Ming was picking on his scars in public and slapping his face in public. Yes, not long ago he threatened to kill Lu Ming and make Lu Ming regret offending him. Now, Lu Ming was standing in front of him, but he did not dare to make a move. In fact, he knew that he was no match for Lu Ming. If he made a move against Lu Ming, he would probably be humiliated. The fate of the heavenly human tribesman who fought with Lu Ming was still vivid in his mind. However, if he did not make a move, he would take the initiative to admit defeat. He was the son of heaven. If he admitted defeat without a fight, he would lose all his face. However, if he fought, he would probably be humiliated by Lu Ming. Yi Chu Qianyue was in a dilemma. The main reason was that he had boasted before. No matter what choice he made now, combined with the previous one, the degree of humiliation would be doubled. If he did not have his previous words, he would have fought with all his strength. Even if he lost, it would be fine. But with his own words, things were different. No matter what choice he made, his reputation in the heavenly human tribe would definitely take a huge hit. His strength was considered the weakest among the 9 heavenly daughters. He had yet to master one of his 2 heavenly forces. If his prestige suffered another blow, it would be very detrimental to his future development. He really hated Lu Ming. He believed that all of this was caused by Lu Ming. Lu Ming didn't care what Yi Qianyue thought. He sneered and said, "Since you refuse to admit defeat, let's fight." As soon as he finished speaking, Lu Ming stepped out. His body was like a phantom as he rushed toward Yi Chu Qianyue. Yi Chu Qianyue's face was extremely solemn. Finally, he gritted his teeth and retreated rapidly. As he retreated, his body began to tremble, and then other figures began to appear. In the blink of an eye, dozens of Yi Chu Qianyue appeared on the fighting ring. Dozens of figures were wandering around the fighting ring. At the same time, streaks of white lightning were constantly striking toward Lu Ming. Yi Chu Qianyue knew that he was no match for Lu Ming in a head-on confrontation. Therefore, he planned to fight with Lu Ming in a guerrilla way. Then he would find a chance to admit defeat. If that was the case, he would lose less face. However, how could Lu Ming not know what he was thinking? Would he give him a chance to do so? Lu Ming rushed into the sky and then dived down toward the fighting ring. The moment he dived down, Lu Ming performed the heaven-breaking move. His whole body turned into a long spear. The long spear swayed and endless spear radiance burst out toward Yi Chu Qianyue's dozens of figures. The long spears were densely packed and shrouded all of Yi Chu Qianyue's figures, making it impossible for him to escape. Seeing that he could not avoid the spear radiance, Yi Chu Qianyue roared and unleashed the 2 supreme heavenly forces to the extreme to resist the spear radiance. However, Lu Ming had unleashed 12-star battle strength. Yi Chu Qianyue was considered weak among the 11-star battle strength. He could not withstand Lu Ming's attack in a head-on confrontation. The spear radiance pierced through Yi Chu Qianyue's figures, turning them into energy and disappearing. In the end, there was only one figure left on the fighting ring. He was constantly moving and dodging the spear radiance's attack. This figure was Yi Chu Qianyue's real body. "Kill!" Lu Ming shouted. He condensed a long spear with the forbidden force in his hand and threw it out with all his strength. The long spear turned into a dazzling radiance and stabbed toward Yi Chu Qianyue. It was too fast. Yi Chu Qianyue wanted to dodge but found that he was locked on. It was impossible to dodge. Block it for me. Yi Chu Qianyue roared. His golden hair fluttered in the wind. The two supreme heavenly forces burst out crazily and converged into an attack to block the long spear. Boom! The two attacks collided with each other. There was an earth-shattering roar and energy overflowed. However, the confrontation between the two attacks did not last for long. In merely a few moments, Yi Qianyue's attacks were unable to withstand the attacks of the long spear and were continuously defeated. In the end, the long spear successfully penetrated Yi Chu Qianyue's attack and pierced through his chest. The long spear pierced through Yi Chu Qianyue's chest. If the fighting ring was not so hard, Yi Chu Qianyue would have been nailed to the fighting ring. Even so, the powerful force of the long spear still dragged Yi Chu Qianyue to the distance. Yi Chu Qianyue was dragged by the long spear. He spat out a mouthful of blood and exerted all his strength to resist the terrifying energy of the long spear. If he did not resist, the energy of the long spear was enough to blow him up. Even so, Yi Chu Qianyue was seriously injured. Lu Ming followed closely behind. He caught up with Yi Chu Qianyue and stepped on his head. I admit defeat, I admit defeat, Yi Chu Qianyue shouted crazily. If he did not admit defeat, his face would be stepped on by Lu Ming in public. It was an unbearable humiliation for him. At least it would be better to admit defeat. He thought that Lu Ming would stop after he admitted defeat. Unfortunately, he was wrong. Lu Ming did not intend to stop. With a bang, Lu Ming's foot stepped on one side of Yi Chu Qianyue's face. The violent force pressed Yi Chu Qianyue's head and smashed it into the fighting ring. The other side of Yi Chu Qianyue's face was smashed into the fighting ring. It shook violently and his face was badly mutilated. Yi Chu Qianyue struggled crazily and screamed crazily as if he had gone crazy. He was really stepped on by Lu Ming in the face. Moreover, this was in public. He was the son of heaven. This was a great humiliation. Yi Chu Qianyue was not the only one who found it hard to accept. The other members of the heavenly human tribe also found it hard to accept. Their eyes were red and filled with cold killing intent. Lu Ming, you broke the rules. Yi Chu Qianyue has already admitted defeat. You still stepped on him. Spirit of Taishang Immortal City, please punish him. Chapter 44:15. There were rules in the battle for the origin seed. Once one side admitted defeat, the other side could not continue to attack. Once they broke the rules, they would be punished. That was why the Lord of Heaven shouted, "Nonsense, I didn't break the rules." Before Yi Chu Qianyue admitted defeat, my foot had already stepped out. When he shouted at the last minute, how could I stop my foot? Due to the inertia, I continued to step forward. I didn't do it on purpose. He can only blame himself for admitting defeat too late. Lu Ming said indifferently, "You're lying." The Lord of Heaven shouted. Lu Ming didn't break the rules. At this moment, the old voice of the Taishang Immortal City sounded again. The people of the heavenly human tribe almost vomited blood. Damn it, damn it, damn it, damn it, damn it, damn it. The people of the heavenly human tribe kept shouting in their hearts. Their burning anger seemed to be burning them. However, they couldn't do anything to Lu Ming. Get lost, son of heaven, that's all you can do. Lu Ming waved his hand and a force rolled out. Yi Chu Qianyue's body was sent flying out of the fighting ring. Lu Ming, don't be too arrogant now. I'm waiting to fight with you. Yi Chu Tianji shouted from the other fighting ring. This was because Lu Ming's words had also included Yi Chu Tianji. He had belittled Son of Heaven to be worthless. Oh, Yi Chu Tianji, you want to challenge me? I advise you to think twice before you speak. Don't be like Yi Chu Qianyue, who is in a dilemma and slaps his own face. Lu Ming sneered. Lu Ming's meaning was obvious. He didn't want Yi Chu Tianji to be so full of himself so that he wouldn't be embarrassed later. However, his voice was full of sarcasm. How could Yi Chu Tianji not hear it? Lu Ming, although you also possess a 12-star combat strength, there are differences in strength even among the 12-star. I will suppress you, Yi Chu Tianji said confidently. Ever since he started cultivating, he had never tasted defeat at the same level. Even Yiling Hongye was only on par with him. He had long cultivated the belief that he was invincible. Even if Lu Ming also possessed 12-star battle prowess, even if Lu Ming controlled the taboo physique, he was confident that he could suppress Lu Ming. Ultimate power of the heavens might not necessarily be weaker than taboo power. Is that so? I hope you can do it. Lu Ming smiled and returned to the lotus. Just like that, Lu Ming obtained 10 consecutive victories, while Yi Qianyue's winning streak came to an end. The battles on the various battle platforms continued. But from time to time, an exciting battle would break out. On each battle platform, there were terrifying experts. Those heavenly maidens weren't invincible, they weren't without opponents. Behind them, Dark Night Rose, Injoling, Autumn Moon, and the others all attacked the heavenly daughter. Among them, Dark Night Rose easily won, shocking everyone once again. 12-star battle prowess. Yes, another peerless genius with 12-star battle prowess had appeared, and that was Dark Night Rose. Not long after, Wuxia also defeated a son of heaven and also displayed 12-star battle prowess. Everyone at the scene was already numb. Since when did 12-star battle prowess become so worthless? Until now, the heavenly human tribe had already produced 3 12-star battle prowess. They were Yi Qiuxian, Yi Chu Tianji, and Yiling Hongya. Outside of the heavenly human tribe, there were even more 12-star battle prowess. Lu Ming, Xian Yanqing, Wan Xin, Dark Night Rose. In the past, those with 12-star battle prowess were enough to suppress the universe for an era. But now, 7 of them had appeared at the same time. It was really rare since the birth of the universe. And there were even more with 11-star battle prowess. The 7 heavenly maidens of the heavenly human tribe. Dandan, Bubbles, Autumn Moon, Ling Yue, Emperor Jinni, Injoling, and Heaven Destroyer. It was worth mentioning that on the Universe Prodigy list, there was also someone with 11-star battle prowess. This was also out of everyone's expectations. Previously, everyone thought that the strongest person on the Universe Prodigy list only had 10-star battle prowess. This person was the number 1 on the Universe Prodigy list, an exceptional demon from the Spirit Tribe, one of the top 10 races, Ling Heng. This person was very talented and controlled the 2 origin ancient words, fire and wind. This way, there were more than a dozen people with 11-star battle prowess. On average, there were more than 3 people with 11-star battle prowess on each battle platform. One could imagine that the competition would become more and more intense. However, on Lu Ming's battle platform, there were only 3 people with 11-star battle prowess: Lu Ming, Ling Yue, and Yi Chu Qianyue. After defeating Yi Chu Qianyue, Lu Ming had no opponents. Every opponent who saw him would admit defeat immediately. Lu Ming won all the way and quickly reached 16 consecutive victories. There were still 2 more battles before Lu Ming's battles on this battle platform were all over. In the 17th battle, Lu Ming finally faced Ling Yue. On the battle platform, the 2 of them stood facing each other. Ling Yue looked at Lu Ming with a complicated expression. It was as if she was sad and resentful, as if she was in love and hate. Lu Ming sighed in his heart and then said, Lu Ming wanted to admit defeat directly. Although it was impossible for Ling Yue to be his match in a real battle, in his heart, he still felt that he owed Ling Yue. In this battle, he would not fight with the other party. He wanted to give the victory to the other party. I admit defeat. However, before Lu Ming could say anything, Ling Yue's voice had already sounded first. As her voice fell, Ling Yue had already turned around and left, returning to the lotus. Lu Ming was in a daze and then returned to the lotus. This guy is really showing mercy everywhere. Not far away, Xian Yanqing muttered. The expressions of Lu Ming and Ling Yue naturally fell into Xian Yanqing's eyes. With her intelligence, how could she not see the problem? However, after experiencing so many things, Xian Yanqing was no longer the young girl from before. She had already seen through many problems. She knew that it was impossible for her to tie Lu Ming to her side by herself. A person like Lu Ming was destined to have more than one woman. It was exactly the same as her father in her previous life. Just like that, Lu Ming obtained 17 consecutive victories. When the 18th round began, there was no suspense. Lu Ming's opponent directly admitted defeat. This way, Lu Ming maintained his 18 consecutive victories on this battle platform, just like Ling Yue. However, Ling Yue still had one last battle to fight, and that was Yi Chu Qianyue. The two of them faced each other in the last match. Kill! As soon as he stepped onto the stage, Yi Chu Qianyue attacked with all his might. The power of the heavenly punishment in his right hand and the power of the heavenly extermination in his left hand transformed into a terrifying attack that attacked Ling Yue from the left and right. Ling Yue let out a light shout, and a towering ancient tree appeared behind her. Its roots were rooted in the void, and a huge amount of essence qi flowed into Ling Yue's body. A battle bow appeared in Ling Yue's hand. An arrow condensed and pierced through the air, shooting towards Yi Chu Qianyue. Chapter 44:16. Ling Yue and Yi Chu Qianyue pushed their combat strength to the peak at the same time, unleashing their strongest attacks. A dazzling arrow pierced through the air, as if it could pierce through everything, and collided with Yi Chu Qianyue in the air. With a boom, it was as if a star had exploded, erupting with dazzling multicolored light. With a violent explosion, the arrow exploded. However, Yi Chu Qianyue's attack was also blocked. His body shook violently as he was pushed back by the powerful force. In a head-on confrontation, Ling Yue actually had the upper hand. The single point of attack of the Tao of archery was simply too strong. After shooting an arrow, Ling Yue once again drew her bow. A huge arrow condensed and aimed at Yi Chu Qianyue. Yi Chu Qianyue's eyes flickered with a cold luster. His body trembled and split into several figures, rushing towards Ling Yue. His speed was extremely fast, constantly flickering. When Ling Yue's arrow rushed past, he successfully dodged it and then quickly rushed towards Ling Yue. The best way to deal with people who cultivated the Tao of archery was to close the distance between the two sides. Once the distance was closed, the power of the Tao of archery would not be able to be fully displayed. In a head-on confrontation, the Tao of archery was too strong and extremely unwise. Yi Chu Qianyue was clearly aware of this point. Ling Yue's expression changed slightly as she retreated. At the same time, she continued to pull on her bowstring. With a buzz, an arrow flew out. However, after the arrow flew out, it didn't continue forward. Instead, it kept changing, turning into many other arrows. In an instant, dozens of arrows appeared in the air. These arrows all flew towards Yi Chu Qianyue's figures. Moreover, these arrows were controlled by Ling Yue. They could freely turn in the air and change as they pleased. Swoosh, 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 dozens of arrows, like dozens of flying swords, chased after Yi Chu Qianyue. Each of the figures that Yi Chu Qianyue had split into seemed to be his real body. Furthermore, each of them possessed a powerful attack power. He used the power of the heavenly punishment to condense a battle sword. With a slash of his sword, dozens of pure white lightning bolts burst out and attacked the arrows. Once an arrow approached, it would be blocked by the power of the heavenly punishment. The distance between Yi Chu Qianyue and Ling Yue was constantly shrinking. He didn't ask for merit, but he didn't ask for any mistakes. He wholeheartedly wanted to close the distance between him and Ling Yue, and for a moment, Ling Yue couldn't do anything to him. Finally, the distance between the two sides was only less than 1,000 meters. A distance of 1,000 meters was nothing to them. However, this distance was too short for Ling Yue. The arrows he shot were unable to display their full power, which was very disadvantageous for Ling Yue. Kill, kill! Yi Chu Qianyue shouted loudly as he circulated the two supreme heavenly powers to the extreme. The two supreme heavenly powers intertwined together and turned into beams of light that shot towards Ling Yue. At such a close distance, Yi Chu Qianyue's attack speed had surpassed Ling Yue's. Ling Yue could only continuously dodge and occasionally counterattack with her bow. However, it did not affect Yi Qianyue too much. She was completely at a disadvantage. He's going to lose, Lu Ming thought to himself. In a one-on-one confrontation, Ling Yue was at a disadvantage. It wasn't that Ling Yue wasn't strong, it was just that Ling Yue was restrained. In terms of attack power alone, Ling Yue even surpassed Yi Chu Qianyue by a bit. However, the weakness of the path of archery was too obvious. The difference in strength was great. Once the arrow was shot, the opponent wouldn't be able to dodge in time. However, in a situation where one's strength was about the same, in a one-on-one battle, the path of archery was at a disadvantage. It was easy to be restrained, and once the distance was pulled closer, the situation would be very disadvantageous. Those who cultivated in the Tao of archery were best at cooperating with others. For example, Ling Yuwei and Lu Ming cooperated. Lu Ming stepped forward to attack and block the others, while Ling Yuwei continued to draw her bow from behind. The power of the arrow would be unleashed to the extreme, and the threat would also be greatly increased. Many paths of cultivation might not be strong in a one-on-one battle, but when combined with others, their power would be extremely terrifying. The Tao of archery was like this, Danden's Tao of array formations, and Bubble's Tao of spacetime were even more so. For example, Danden's attack power in a one-on-one battle would not be particularly strong. This was because setting up a formation required time. The longer the time, the stronger the formation would be. Therefore, in a one-on-one battle, Danden was at a disadvantage. If he cooperated with others and was given sufficient time to set up the formation, the power he could unleash would be extremely terrifying. Of course, Danden's life-saving ability was top-notch. As for the power of time and space, it was known as the King of Support. It wasn't that these paths of cultivation weren't strong, but that they needed to be coordinated with others in order to unleash their strongest power. Ling Yuwei was at a disadvantage on this point. The two sides exchanged a few more moves. Ling Yuwei was careless and was struck by a pure white bolt of lightning. A charred black hole appeared in her abdomen, and the powerful force caused her to explosively retreat. Only after retreating 10,000 meters did she stabilize her body. However, after Ling Yuwei stabilized her body, she did not stop. She took a step forward and rushed out of the stage at an astonishing speed. Ling Yuwei was planning to admit defeat. She was already clear that under the circumstances of being restrained, she would definitely not be able to win against her opponent. She might as well admit defeat. "Open your mouth and admit defeat," Yi Chu Qianyue shouted and continued to rush towards Ling Yuwei. Although rushing out of the stage and admitting defeat were both admitting defeat, the meaning was different. He wanted Ling Yuwei to personally admit defeat. However, Ling Yuwei clearly did not intend to open her mouth. As she retreated, she continued to draw her bow and arrows flew towards Yi Chu Qianyue. This way, he could stop Yi Chu Qianyue's speed. After blocking for a while, Ling Yuwei had already rushed out of the stage and returned to the lotus flower. This way, Yi Chu Qianyue could not continue to attack. Humph! Yi Chu Qianyue coldly snorted and also retreated to the lotus flower. In this battle, Yi Chu Qianyue won. After a few more matches, all the matches on this stage came to an end. The results of this battle were also out. Lu Ming had won 18 consecutive matches and was ranked first. Yi Chu Qianyue had won 17 matches and lost one match, ranking second. Ling Yuwei had won 16 matches and lost 2 matches, ranking third. However, there were still a few battle stages where the battles were still not over. They needed to wait. After all, each battle would take a different amount of time. Some battle stages would take a longer time while others would take a shorter time. This was normal. They waited for another 2 days. At this time, all the battles were finally over. Alright, now that the 7 battle stages have all ended, the top 7 of each battle stage can enter the top 49 and obtain the 4th grade position, allowing them to better connect to the cosmic sea. The old voice sounded again. The top 7 of each battle stage naturally revealed looks of joy, while those who did not enter the top 7 shook their heads and sighed. Chapter 44:17. Now, I'll announce the rules for entering the 3rd tier. There are a total of 14 slots for the first 3 tiers, 4 slots for the first 2 tiers, and 1 slot for the first tier. In the later rounds, we'll decide the rankings from the 1st to the 14th. The old voice sounded again. Everyone was shocked. It seemed that the top 14 would be decided in the later rounds. The following battle would be the final battle, the most important one. However, not all 49 of you are qualified to participate in the later rounds because it's not necessary. I've decided that the top 3 of each battle platform will be qualified to participate in the final round. The old voice continued to announce. Many people's expressions changed. Only the top 3 rankers of each battle platform would be able to participate in the final battle. The others would have to stop there and be eliminated? Some people were unwilling to accept this, especially those who possessed 11-star combat strength. Among them, there was a son of heaven. According to the rules announced by the old voice, only the top 3 of each battle platform would be qualified to participate in the later rounds. The 7 battle platforms added up to 21 people. However, there were more than 21 people with 11-star combat strength and above. Now, those who were suspected to possess 12-star combat strength were Lu Ming, Xian Yanqing, Dark Knight Rose, Wan Xin, Yi Chu Tianji, Yiling Hongye, and Yi Qiuxian. There were a total of 7 people. There were a total of 17 people with 11-star combat strength. Adding them up, there were 24 people. In this way, 3 people with 11-star combat strength were excluded. The 3 of them were unwilling to accept this and thought that they still had a chance to compete. Before these people could say anything, the old voice rang out again. I know that some of you will feel indignant and think that you are just unlucky. There are too many experts on your battle platforms. Hence, I will give you all a chance. The 4th to 7th place of each battle platform will have a chance to challenge one of the 21 people. You can choose any one of the 21 people. As long as you can defeat your opponent, you'll be able to replace your opponent. Remember, everyone only has one chance, and you can't challenge the same person all the time. Now, let's begin, the old voice announced. When the old voice sounded out, the 7 battle stages in the air started to gather together and eventually formed a single battle stage. And the top 3 of each battle platform surrounded the battle platforms. As for the 4th to 7th rankers of each battle platform, they retreated, distancing themselves from the battle prowess of their opponents. However, they weren't teleported out of the light barrier. This meant that they still had a chance to challenge their opponents. There were 28 people who had one chance to challenge. These 28 people immediately swept their gazes over Lu Ming and the others. Of course, Lu Ming, Xian Yanqing, Wan Xin, Dark Knight Rose, Yi Qiuxian, Yi Chu Tianji, and Yiling Hongye, the 7 suspected to have 12-star battle prowess, were directly ignored. A 12-star battle prowess wasn't something that they could deal with. Thus, there was no need to even consider it. Their targets were the other 11 stars, especially Ling Yue, Dandan, and the others. If they fought alone, it would be easy for them to be restrained. I'll go first. Immediately, a voice rang out. It came from an existence on the Universe Prodigy list. This person was ranked 2nd on the Universe Prodigy list. His name was Ning Tai, and he was also very powerful with a battle prowess of 10 stars. His reaction was very fast. While others were still observing, he directly issued a challenge. Aloud. The old voice rang out, and the lotus beneath Ning Tai's feet automatically flew out. Damn it, he beat me to it. Damn it, I hope he doesn't choose those people. The others roared in their hearts, especially the 3 prodigies who possessed a battle prowess of 11 stars. They were roaring in their hearts, and their hearts were filled with annoyance. They secretly blamed themselves for being one step slower. They had already targeted Ling Yue, Dandan, and the others, secretly praying that they wouldn't be chosen by Ning Tai. Because if they were chosen by Ning Tai, they wouldn't have a chance and could only challenge others later. I choose her. Ning Tai pointed at Ling Yue. As expected, many people nodded in their hearts. Ning Tai had indeed chosen one of these people. Damn it. The 3 11 stars prodigies roared in their hearts. They were very unwilling. An easier person to deal with had been chosen. The lotus beneath Ling Yue's feet flew forward and towards the battle platform. The 2 of them flew onto the battle platform and faced each other. Boom! A powerful aura erupted from Ning Tai's body. His glabella glowed, and a golden light burst out. His entire body was enveloped by the golden light, and his body seemed to have turned into a piece of metal. This is the origin ancient character. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. Looking at it from a close distance, and with the other party using all his strength, Lu Ming could easily see that the other party also controlled the origin ancient character. There was an ancient character between Ning Tai's eyebrows that was faintly discernible. If one looked carefully, they could see that it should be the word gold. With a swoosh, Ning Tai rushed towards Ling Yue. He was also using Yi Chu Qianyue's tactic to close the distance between the two of them. He only had 10 stars of battle prowess, and Ling Yue had 11 stars. If he didn't close the distance between the two of them, he probably wouldn't even be able to block an arrow from Ling Yue. Only by closing the distance and attacking the opponent's weakness would he have a chance of winning. However, this time, Ling Yue didn't retreat. Behind her, a towering tree took root in the air, and a huge amount of essence qi continuously flowed into Ling Yue's body, continuing to provide her with strength. She didn't attack either, allowing Ning Tai to approach. Soon, the distance between the two sides was less than 1,000 meters. A good chance. Ning Tai's eyes lit up. He let out a light shout and a golden light burst forth. Densely packed metal weapons appeared around his body. These were not divine armaments brought from the outside world, but evolved from the gold word. Dozens of weapons charged towards Ling Yue. At this moment, a dense number of arrows suddenly burst out from Ling Yue's body. These arrows were actually shot out from the pores all over her body. It was unknown how many tiny arrows had gathered together to form a shield. Clang, clang, clang. Ning Tai's attack landed on the shield formed by the arrows, causing a violent vibration. However, it was blocked in the end. 10 stars of battle prowess. Do you think it's useful just by closing the distance? How naive. Ling Yue's slightly cold voice rang out, and then her body arched. His body bent backwards, his hands and feet connected. His entire body was like a bow. With a buzzing sound, Ling Yue's body trembled like a bowstring, and then her entire body shot out. The moment she shot out, she turned into an arrow and shot towards Ning Tai. Ning Tai's expression changed drastically. From between his brows, the ancient character, gold, flew out. Metal weapons condensed one after another, slashing towards the arrow that Ling Yue had transformed into. Chapter 44:18. Boom. With a violent explosion, the weapons that Ning Tai had slashed out continuously shattered. In the blink of an eye, all of the weapons shattered into pieces. Although the arrow that Ling Yue had transformed into was slightly dimmer, it still retained some of its power and continued to shoot towards Ning Tai. With a bang, a large hole appeared in Ning Tai's chest. He retreated backwards until he reached the edge of the stage. His face was pale as he spat out large mouthfuls of blood. 11 stars of battle strength might be useful to me if I close the distance. 10 stars of battle strength and you want to use the same method? How laughable! Ling Yue said, as if she wanted to vent all her resentment towards Lu Ming on others. Her long skirt fluttered as a battle bow condensed. An arrow appeared and aimed at Ning Tai. At such a distance, Ling Yue's arrow was able to unleash its strongest power. Ning Tai felt his muscles tense up as a strong sense of danger enveloped his entire body. He was already injured from that move just now. Now that he had pulled away, he definitely wouldn't be able to block Ling Yue's strongest attack. It was very likely that he would be instantly killed by an arrow. Although they could revive after being killed here, no one wanted to personally experience the feeling of being killed. I admit defeat. Ning Tai shouted loudly, directly admitting defeat. Seeing that Ning Tai had admitted defeat, Ling Yue also dispersed her bow and arrow and retracted her aura. Lu Ming nodded silently. This scene was within his expectations. After all, Ning Tai and Ling Yue were 1 star apart. The same method might be useful against Yi Chu Qianyue, but it might not be useful against Ning Tai. Although Ling Yue's close compatibility wasn't strong, she would be at a disadvantage against an opponent of the same level and star rank. However, that didn't mean that she would be helpless against an opponent whose star rank was weaker than hers. Although her close compatibility couldn't deal with Yi Chu Qianyue, it was enough to deal with Ning Tai. Therefore Ning Tai failed. The challenge has failed. Get out. An old voice sounded, and then a force acted on Ning Tai's body. In the next moment, Ning Tai's body disappeared from his original spot and appeared outside the light barrier. He had been eliminated. From a participant, he had become a bystander. As for Ling Yue, she had stabilized the first 21 spots. The others were unable to continue challenging him. I'll challenge you. I challenge you. At this moment, 5 or 6 voices sounded at the same time. This time, 5 or 6 people issued challenges at the same time, fearing that the person they liked would be chosen by others. "You're the first to speak. Go ahead and challenge him." The old man's voice rang out, and a lotus flower flew out. This was a son of heaven, possessing 11 stars of battle prowess. This person was overjoyed. As for the others, they were inwardly furious. They were just a bit slower than the other party, but in the end, the other party was one step ahead of them. "I want to challenge him, that world turtle." The emperor pointed at Dandan. As expected, he chose Dandan. In a one-on-one fight, Dandan was indeed not strong. "Motherfucker, do you really think I'm easy to bully?" Dandan was extremely displeased and gritted his teeth. However, Dandan could not refuse a challenge. The two of them stepped onto the battle platform, and the battle began. Dandan retreated from the beginning and then frantically set up formations. Runes flew out from every pore of his, and one formation after another appeared. In an instant, the entire battle platform was filled with formations. However, these formations were only set up in a short period of time. Although there were many of them, their power was ultimately limited. This son of heaven of the heavenly human clan also controlled 2 types of supreme heavenly powers. When combined, the power was extremely shocking. Every time he blasted out a move, a large area of array formations would be destroyed. Although Dandan kept setting up formations, the speed of setting up formations was still not as fast as the speed of the other party breaking them. The two of them fought for more than half an hour. In the end, Dandan was at a disadvantage. He was no match for the other party and was defeated. "Motherfucker, if you give me a little more time, I will definitely beat you into a bastard." Beat you into a dead dog." Dandan cursed and was finally teleported out. Then the challenge continued. Next, another expert with a combat strength of 11 stars challenged Bubble. However, in the end, this person was defeated by Bubble. Then, the third person with a combat strength of 11 stars also issued a challenge. He challenged a monster from Heaven Destroyer. However, it still ended in failure. Since then, the 3 people with a combat strength of 11 stars had all challenged each other. There were still some people with a combat strength of 10 stars left. Those people looked at each other with a solemn expression. Those who were easy to deal with had all been defeated. None of the remaining people were easy to deal with. In the end, a few people with a combat strength of 10 stars were unwilling to give up and issued challenges one after another. However, in the end, they were all defeated in a crushing manner. Some of them were even killed on the spot. In this way, the remaining people shook their heads and gave up on the challenge. It was meaningless. The gap was too big. Even if they challenged, they would not succeed. Just like that, the 21 people who were qualified to participate in the next competition were determined. The next rules are very simple. Just like before, each person will take turns to fight with the other 20 people. In the end, the strongest 14 people will be ranked according to the results of the battle. The first place will obtain the first-tier position. The second place to the 4th place will obtain the second-tier position. The 5th place to the 14th place will obtain the 3rd-tier position. Let's start the competition. As his voice fell, 2 lotuses flew toward the fighting ring. It's Yichu Tianji. The other person is from Heaven Destroyer. The spectators outside were discussing animatedly. Autumn Moon. Lu Ming whispered. That's right. The first round was between Autumn Moon and Yichu Tianji. Autumn Moon, you don't have to fight this round. Just admit defeat. Lu Ming transmitted his voice to Autumn Moon. Autumn Moon had a combat strength of 11 stars while Yichu Tianji had a combat strength of 12 stars. He had mastered 3 types of ultimate heavenly power. Previously, Autumn Moon and Yichu Tianji had fought. The gap between them was indeed huge. Autumn Moon was definitely not a match for Yichu Tianji. If he insisted on fighting, he would definitely be injured or even killed. There was no need for that. It was better to conserve his strength and fight with those who also had a combat strength of 11 stars. With Autumn Moon's strength, he might be able to enter the top 14 and obtain the 3rd-tier position. Autumn Moon nodded. I admit defeat. As soon as Autumn Moon stepped onto the fighting ring, he admitted defeat. Pumph. Yi Chu Tianji snorted unhappily. He had wanted to seize the opportunity to suppress Autumn Moon and attack Lu Ming. Obviously, Autumn Moon would not give him the chance. In the first round, Autumn Moon lost. The second round was about to begin. In the second round, Di Jinni was against Yi Chu Qianyue. The two of them fought fiercely. However, Di Jinni lived up to his name as an exceptional character from a small kiliacosm. He was also the main character of a small kiliacosm. He was extremely powerful. After the two of them fought for over 100 moves, Di Jinni defeated Yi Chu Qianyue. Yi Chu Qianyue's combat strength was not the best among the 9 heavenly daughters. He was ranked at the bottom. Chapter 44:19. In the first match of the first round, Autumn Moon admitted defeat and Yi Chu Tianji won. In the second match, Di Jinni defeated Yi Chu Qianyue. Then it was the third match. In this match, the number 1 genius on the Universe Prodigy list faced a genius from the Heaven Destroyer. After more than 200 moves, the number 1 genius on the Universe Prodigy list, Ling Heng, won. In the fourth match, it was Xian Yanqing's turn. His opponent was a daughter of heaven who had a battle power of 11 stars. This daughter of heaven was unwilling to admit defeat when facing Xian Yanqing. Instead, she launched a fierce attack to find an opportunity to win. However, in the end, she was suppressed by Xian Yanqing and defeated in a few moves. Then, those who were suspected to have a battle power of 12 stars appeared one after another. Wan Shun, Dark Knight Rose, Yi Qiuxian, Yiling Hongye. They won without much effort, because everyone who met them admitted defeat one after another. Bubble's opponent was Dark Knight Rose. Bubble also admitted defeat. Of the 7 who were suspected to have a battle power of 12 stars, Lu Ming was the last to appear. His opponent also stunned Lu Ming. It was Ling Yue. He met Ling Yue again in the first match. Lu Ming smiled bitterly in his heart. I admit defeat. Ling Yue was very straightforward. She admitted defeat and returned to the battle stage. Soon, the first round ended. In this round, the 7 who were suspected to have a battle power of 12 stars didn't meet each other and won easily. There were also a few who had a battle power of 11 stars who won. Di Jinni, the number 1 genius on the Universe Prodigy list, and a son of heaven from the celestial race. Of course, there were a total of 21 people. In one round, there were 20 people fighting and 10 matches. There would be an extra person. Of course, this person wouldn't be free. He would also meet an opponent, and his opponent would be one of the 20 people in front of him. However, it didn't matter. Everyone would eventually fight with the other 20 people. It was the same sooner or later. They just had to take turns. After the first round, it was the second round. In the second round, the 7 who were suspected to have a battle power of 12 stars still didn't meet each other. On the other hand, Lu Ming's opponent was Bubbles. Bubbles, of course, admitted defeat. For 2 consecutive matches, Lu Ming had encountered his own people. Without moving a single finger, he had obtained 2 consecutive victories. And in the second round, other than the 7 existences that were suspected to have 12-star battle prowess that had won, there were 4 other people that had won. The other Son of Heaven had obtained victory. On the other hand, Emperor Jianyi and the number 1 on the Universe Genius list had also won. The last one was the Mid-Autumn Moon. In this match, Autumn Moon had defeated a Son of Heaven. After 2 rounds of fighting, other than the 7 who were suspected to possess 12-star battle prowess, a few particularly powerful people in the 11-star battle prowess area had already emerged. They were Emperor Jianyi, number 1 on the Universe Genius list. There were also 2 Sons of Heaven, Autumn Moon and Autumn. These 5 people were believed to be the ones who could enter the top 14. Of course, he couldn't be completely sure. It was just an estimate. This was because some people were unlucky and encountered people with 12-star battle prowess in 2 consecutive rounds. However, this did not mean that they were weak. The final ranking would only be known after all the battles. The second round ended, and the third round began. The 7 people with 12-star battle prowess still did not encounter each other. And Lu Ming's opponent for this round was actually the Mid-Autumn Moon. The Mid-Autumn Moon naturally admitted defeat. This made Lu Ming rather speechless. Why can't I fight against my own people? I have a body full of power, but I can't unleash it. Lu Ming sighed in his heart. His face was filled with grief as he lamented the unfairness of fate. If other people were to know his thoughts, they would probably vomit blood from anger. It was impossible for others to win easily. Who knew how many people were envious of Lu Ming? This Lu Ming, why is he so lucky to encounter so many beauties, and they all seem to be with him? That's right, what kind of luck is this? It's really infuriating. Many of the onlookers were unhappy. How many beauties were there among the 21 people participating in the competition? More than half of them had a close relationship with Lu Ming. How could people not be envious? The competition was carried out one by one. From the third round onwards, someone who was suspected to have a 12-star battle prowess finally met. That was Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing. I admit defeat. Xian Yanqing smiled slightly and returned to the lotus. The onlookers were speechless. Everyone was speechless. Without looking, they knew that Xian Yanqing and Lu Ming had a close relationship. Otherwise, Xian Yanqing also had a 12-star battle prowess. Why would he admit defeat without a fight? Admitting defeat was equivalent to giving up the qualification for first place. Who would give up easily when both of them had a 12-star battle prowess? However, Xian Yanqing gave up. Everyone was prepared to watch an exciting peak battle. Unfortunately, it was over before it even started. I'm jealous. I hate it. Many people wailed. No matter what kind of emotions they had, the competition would not stop. After a while, the 5th round ended and the 6th round began. Lu Ming's opponent for this round was actually someone he knew. Wan Xin. Although his opponent for this round was not a woman, it was actually Wan Xin. No matter what, they are all on the same side. It must be intentional. Even Lu Ming muttered to himself. This was too much of a coincidence. If it was not intentional, how could it be so coincidental? Lu Ming himself could not believe it. Lu Ming and Wan Xin stood opposite each other on the fighting ring. They will probably fight in this round. Although Wan Xin and Lu Ming are considered members of the Heaven Exterminating Army, neither of them will give up easily in the fight for the top spot. There will be an intense battle between the heavenly sons and daughters. They will definitely take action. Wan Xin is suspected to be a pure primordial god, while Lu Ming has a taboo body. Once they clash, it will be very exciting. Who do you think will win? Everyone was discussing animatedly, looking forward to an exciting battle. Lu Ming, are you confident of getting first place? In the arena, Wan Xin asked Lu Ming through voice transmission. I'm 80% confident. Lu Ming replied through voice transmission. The reason why he did not say he was 100% confident was because he was not sure if anyone was hiding their strength. It was easy to tell one's cultivation, but it was difficult to tell one's strength unless it was revealed. Among them, was there anyone who was hiding their strength? Dark Night Rose, Yichu Tianji, Yiling Hongye Yiqiuxian, especially Yiqiuxian, Lu Ming could not see through him. He felt that he was hiding his strength very deeply and even made him feel a little pressured. 80% confidence? That's enough. I don't even have 20% confidence. I'll let you win this round. I'll leave first place to you. Wan Xin replied through voice transmission. Then he said loudly, I admit defeat. As his voice rang out, Wan Xin had already stepped back onto the fighting ring. The onlookers,